All right, thank you guys, thank everybody for coming back, just 2 weeks later and ready to jump back in again. I think we had a really great, what I would consider, real first session, jumping in onto the maps last time. It showed us where we were and what we had to do and what a challenge we have in front of us. It encouraged us to think about what other tools would really be helpful while still giving us the opportunity to really brainstorm, because that's what we really want this to be about, right? Like I just can't encourage you guys enough to not be influenced by what already exists. Certainly a data point certainly helps you maybe get your head around it. I think there's so much potential to really think about what we want to see to drive towards the goals that we have for the common vision that we created. Some of the changes, that have been made over recent years, maybe if fulfilled, completely in their entirety over the next 5 to 10 years, would end up with a different result than what you guys said that you would like to see in 2042, right? So, we have to be careful when looking at specific parts of the map to not be overly influenced by what's already in place. Appreciate Wayne for sending out all this additional information. I know there was conversations about where the greenways were going to be, and where they were planned, and what the connectivity looks like, as well as how do the primary land uses typically get packaged together, kind of at a high level, and that's what he sent you guys in this thinking from the previous comprehensive land, or comprehensive master plan that was previously created. And we can use these categories. I think they're good with regards to primary land use and secondary land use. But again, don't feel too restricted. If you see that one doesn't resemble what you're looking for, exactly, we'll make up another one. But this gives us a little bit of a head start, right, from having to do it, maybe completely from scratch, and giving you some more idea on how to do this. So one of the things we also promised you guys is that we would get you updates on plans with regards to road plans and construction plans for road improvements, as well as building, what had been approved for development. And so, we're not going to get into too much detail. Most of the focus will be on what's going to impact our quadrant, but I think there's only one other major development that's approved outside of this quadrant, really. So
right now, there's only 3 projects in this quadrant. One is the septic project, which is multifamily and a hotel convention center right across from the Cats Park and Ride. I would say it's 100% on go. We're meeting with developers now. We're going to be applying for permits. The Junker site, which is kind of across from Dunkin' Donuts, East Coast Subs. It's on go. It is now going to be more multifamily townhome than all multifamily. And I understand they're negotiating with everything, but I don't know how that's going. But I know that your HOA boards meet with them, and they're talking about pond stormwater, and then the Alexander Farm development. And I think it's on go. You'll see an amendment coming up here in front of the planning board in about a week or so, and also town board. The amendment is to add 7 additional senior units in exchange for preservation of the tenant house. Don't like exchanging those type things, but I think from a staff perspective, it's a good thing to save the tenant house, and if we only add 7 units, then we're not expanding the building footprint. They're adding it within what's already approved. So that's the only approved projects within the boundary of what we're looking at today.
included in that's a reduction in actual homes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So,
single family city redo.
which likely would be a net loss in traffic, I would expect.
Say for Junker, since they're doing townhouses versus all apartments does that reduce that project?
Does not reduce the unit count, so they're exchanging apartment for townhomes. Townhomes are gonna be up on West Catawba, fronting on West Catawba, and then it just reduces the multifamily count. Do you remember the number? I want to say it's 15 apartments to 15 townhomes, so the apartment count goes down by 15. Not a lot, but that's some.
Apartment means rental, not
Correct.
Ownership.
condo.
Yeah, apartment is definitely rental. A townhome could be either one, but
Yeah.
a townhome is owned by somebody.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
And they decided still not to do any sort of commercial capacity.
Now, I'll say they are still, I understand they're having very positive conversations with the Chautauqua neighborhood. That's not to say that might not change. I know one of the big negotiations is the pond. Because I think the Chautauqua neighborhood is saying, well, y'all might be able to help us with our pond if y'all take on permanent maintenance. So I think there's a lot of discussion going on there about, and also relationships are much better. Jamie Rolowitz bought Jake out,
Yeah.
told Jake to hit the road. Jamie's much nicer, much better to deal with, and is a much better developer. So Jamie's the one doing negotiation with the neighborhood.
Is Jamie actually gonna do the development? You told me he's partnering with the other companies to do all that.
Jamie's involved, there is a development company that's going to be doing it with him.
Jamie told me he was just an ambassador when he may be negotiating with the front end, but long term, I think he's just an ambassador.
He's still a voice. I think
That's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing too, because a lot of people hear about it.
He's vested in the community.
If we can, we'll table that, you guys, and that's good, we want to do parking lot, I know we want to get out here earlier in time, so we're just gonna stay on task, on focus. We really are, it's one of Ava's first observations last week, is guys, we're gonna stay on focus and stay on task, we're gonna do this right. So, she's right, we are, and, so I'm sorry, there are gonna be times where I do that, just in an effort to get this project complete so we can meet our objectives. So I'm just gonna apologize way in advance for any time that I may, interject or keep us moving and keep us rolling along. But thank you guys, I really appreciate it. I've heard a couple other good, things that I wanna share with you guys. They've had the recommendation, and we don't have to have an answer tonight, but Wayne, I'm gonna ask the town that sometime before we finish the 4 quadrants, if we could get out in the bus maybe and do a small road trip through town to look at the areas that we've been mapping. The only request is that maybe we can get it done before we have a chance to do a final iteration on the 4 quadrants. Would you guys like to do that? Everyone's up for jumping in the bus or something and drive around and talk about some of these specific areas we have questions about, because we can see it.
And if we do that, we might start a little bit earlier to avoid rush hour traffic. If y'all are okay with that.
We'll work out a date.
Okay,
and then we
we'll do that.
it works for everybody.
The traffic
Patrice is here, as a resident, citizen, volunteer, again, volunteering her time to represent her community and provide feedback for us. Specifically, I know she's contributed last week and has lots of information she's willing to share with you guys about how Chiton Road extension, and she's got concerns about the water runoff in that area, how it will impact Magnolia Estates. So if you have specific questions regarding that, or just want feedback from the community, she represents the community and citizen of Cornelius resident, please use her as a resource during your breakout sessions. Just go ask her if you have a question about something, and, really appreciate you being here, Mom's going to do that again.
Well, I did maps, because it makes sense. When I just look at streets, it's, what am I looking at? So this is all of Teton Extension, I mean, so I copied, take a look at it. And it's not so much runoff, it is capacity issue to the holding pond that my community owns. And so, it's, yeah.
So if you guys have issues or questions or concerns about the capacity of her ponds in Magnolia, then she'll serve as the resident citizen special center, that's where she lives, for her area. She can represent them for that. So thank you for coming out to do that. Dennis, do you have some things, anything you want to share?
Let's roll.
You ready to jump into it? So what we're gonna try to do, we're gonna split into 3 areas, I think, this time, guys, instead of trying to do the whole map, you know, or the whole quadrant at one time, we'll split it into 3 smaller sections. We'll time box each one of those, okay? And then at the end of each one of those, we'll do a small report out on those, and then we'll go into the next section. Is that okay with you guys? To try that, and see if we, you know, force these timelines upon ourselves, and it'll force us. Now, listen, you know, these are big decisions, right? But we're gonna have to make them. If the information that we're using, or the dialogue that we're using to come to our conclusions is not changing, then let's make the decision, right? Let's go ahead and make the decision. Let's get some stickers on the map. If you need some additional help, or if you have a question about something that hasn't been answered yet, you have resources in the room to help you with that, so please use them. And don't forget, guys, this is your first iteration, right? We're gonna do this quadrant first, and then we'll do each of the next quadrants. When we're done with all 4 quadrants, we'll have a chance to revisit everything that we did. So just because we put it down today doesn't mean we can't take it up tomorrow. We can. But let's, you know, once the map starts to fill out, once you can see the way it's coming together, and once you start having more thoughts on this process will get a little bit easier, I do believe, for everybody. So let's go with it today. Let's just, you know, our big goal today will be to make some progress and get some stickers up, and see if we can't walk away at the end of the day today looking at this saying, okay, I think we generally understand how we want this to go. And what that will do is it'll give you a chance to reflect on it. If we want to make changes when we come back, we can. Is that okay? All right.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
If you'll remind me, because I know you had sent out an email about we can't do anything to this particular area. If you'll just remind me where that is. So that
And I might go backwards and talk about the 3 areas that Commissioner Osborne talked about. We're focused on really what today is the village center around Chaton, West Catawba, and then West Catawba coming toward town, say where the Home Trust Bank is, and where some of the offices that come up around Bethel Church Road, and then looking farther south down West Catawba toward Alexander Farm. So I think those are the 3 areas we talked about. Everything else, such as out Chaton Road, out Bethel Road, those are all peninsulas that are covered under environmental protection through watershed. So there's really nothing we can do out there. And I know in the last meeting, we had some conversations about, well, what about this vacant lot down Chaton? Or what about going way out toward the golf course? Or what about toward Bethel? Those are areas we really can't do anything about. So that's why I mentioned to Commissioner Osborne, we might just take those off the table, because we kind of spin wheels talking about those, because we can't do anything there. So if we take those off, it kind of leaves us in the gray area that you see on the map up there. And that's the 3 areas that Commissioner Osborne was talking about. So I think if we just focus on those 3 areas outside of Torrance, Bethel, Peninsula, and Nance, that's going to be a plenty for us to focus on anyway.
just the gray area.
Really just the gray area on the map.
We're gonna break that into 3. When we break in, I'll show you, Dennis, if you're not familiar, or you can grab the other one. But once we break in here, I'll show you, if you're in my group, if not, Wayne, Dennis can show you the other one. We'll show you exactly which one we're gonna focus on first.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the area that's good for farming subdivision in that gray area?
You said farming subdivision.
I remember reading something
Yes.
about,
Oh, Alexander Farm, yes.
Okay.
It will
So
be
it's
in one
in
of, it
that
will be in
area?
one of the 3 areas of the gray that we're talking about.
okay,
So that right there is the bottom left. The gray.
Oh, okay.
Right along the bottom.
okay.
So why don't we start in that area?
Okay.
Yeah. We'll start with that section from Village Center.
Starting from Westmoreland Road up to about Nance Road.
Yep.
Okay.
That's more
I
than
have a
today.
question. Where there is development on West Catawba, I guess there's an area that kind of irks me all the time. And it's where the boatyard is, and you didn't dance. I'm sorry, it's just the worst impression. Is there any way to get that property owner to add more of a buffer with trees so you don't see, you know what I mean, when
Well-
you're coming east? I know,
What we're gonna do today, and while we're doing this planning, is if everyone in this room has a vision for how they want that land used in the future, there's certain land use that would make a better impression, then we're gonna ask everyone in here today to put the land use designation on it that they think would make the best impression, if that's what's important. So that would be, what I would ask, on this group for that, as opposed to what can we ask the specific one.
Anything related to that,
Okay, so 15 minutes. Westmoreland over to Nance-ish, right?
We're breaking into.
We're gonna break into groups?
That's kind of the bottom third of the gray area on your map.
Yep, so let's do it, let's go. And we got the stickers now?
Yeah, Becky's got those over here, she's gonna put
She's got
some
some
in
over
each.
there.
Where'd you say they were over here?
They're in the chair,
Oh, in the
right
chair,
next to
right
him.
behind Mike.
Or map, was there a map show? Yeah.
We
Put it
had to
in
shrink the map a
Put it
little
in the
bit
dryer.
for this
Do we have, let's see real quick, these are now matching up to,
C and P.
let's go.
Yes, those are yours to do, and as Commissioner Osborne was saying, the colors match up to this document, sees the green dot on there. Unfortunately, all we can do is ask, beat things out, all that. Basically what he's saying
Oh,
is, hey,
okay.
it's for
I was
sale.
like.
So if someone dies, he redevelops it, so he's not gonna do anything.
No parks
so,
in this
but
area.
I mean, I guess the good news is.
Actually, that's outside of the one park that they have planned in Alexander.
There's storage, you've got that.
Thank you.
And we've been working for a lot of years. Purchase award is, one Norman Bear mixed use.
That's what it is. Ramp over here.
That's what I figured when it was saving grade.
Yeah.
Alexander Farm has parkland in the middle of it. So this quadrant there's no park needs in this quadrant.
Can I rezone my neighborhood?
Hey, you can.
We can.
Single 2 acre.
Unfortunately, what's there today, all I want to go to BV and say.
I hate all you guys.
So we've told BV, luckily, in fact, I got a complaint today, because they park like 8 boats out front, which that's against our rules too. You can't park, you have to park places. So we called them and told them to keep park out front. And I've asked BV, we just live in shrubs.
All right, everyone see the section we're working on here?
When I'm gonna
Basic
start
rail
selling within 12 months.
through here.
And I just got to cross my fingers, please sell, please sell.
I
Now,
know, it's just like, get in, it looks
Yeah.
nice.
This-
and then-
what's your vision? To give my memory, so it's basically
It
Kings
is,
Point, right,
it
is
is, and
south
so when I
of
did my
there.
tour too, it's like.
So we're not gonna talk about any of these. This is, the key consideration, what's that? Oh, there you go, okay. Key considerations are people that ask for waterfront access, like, we consider waterfront access, we got parks, waterfront access. And then there's actually a lot of
I think we
land
have very
that we
stringent,
discussed
very
last time that could
correct,
potentially have higher and better use than what it is today. And depending on how high you go, we don't determine whether or not some of that property needs to be developed or not. The reason why is because you go through 10 stories. But if you did, then all of a sudden, then all of a sudden that land, hey, I don't know if you heard some of the conversations, but whole area, that person saying, that's sort of 6 stories. When they were trying out, there's some mixed retail, junkers, the developer was saying, you should just go out, you can't see the waterfront, because everything's built on water. You go way out.
I mean, I go to work.
Then you can see. So just for those considerations that you want to kind of respond to, is that line that they're building, I don't think it is, because everyone said that they, or not everyone, a lot of people in here said that they're looking for more moderate type of work, and that doesn't jive so well.
Moderate's the upper level of moderate.
Put their name out there for
This is- I don't-
for donating some flowers.
This way, I think they must say these guys come up with
Okay. I appreciate that.
You do a great job. I make one heads with you because I'm just very, but I said everybody.
15 years ago when I started.
There's just not the space here.
Yeah.
Like, there's not the space to do that. So, looking at what we've got, you know,
He is the nicest and he probably.
I'm gonna look at this area here. Let's, for sake of discussion for now, let's look at this left half, right, first. And let's just work our way out, right?
When you do it.
We'll come back.
Thank you, but I come from a risk
So,
management background.
the easiest thing, maybe, let's maybe just tackle. So
We're not touching it.
Where that exemption,
And
so.
we can, if, you know, if it makes us feel better, let's get some stickers, get some stickers up there. So,
What I did for my.
this, in order to make sure, right, these are, I think, the three pencils that are.
Please, I always said, I said the
I'm not
one
sure
tell
this is
me, and I said,
included in that. I think this is partially,
Just told us to stick to the
So
correct.
they,
but I.
Right here is a storage unit.
board,
It's very hard for me.
Or whatever that.
dictates what.
The building that just sold after,
My
been
mom
here
was
since the
different
age of
areas.
12.
Or ring the boat.
I-
right, this is our, yeah, this
When
is
they,
our
it's
junker.
one of the check, it's one of the
Junker
All of this is
So, but they
closed
send
businesses
it
and
to us
offices that aren't
basically
being
saying,
used.
we
correct.
agree that
So,
it's
this is a
architectural,
giant
it's not that they're
field.
recommending it
So
or
all
not
of this could
recommending
be
it,
like
they're
cleanup.
saying, based
Huge
upon the
borders
parameters
there.
in which that
So
we
what do we
have for
wanna
this
do with this
particular
area here?
thing,
It's
that it
currently
meets our
okay, so-
standards, so now it needs to go to board planning.
But then the condition.
Yep, doesn't, Matt, we're not gonna worry about it.
But it goes to
So
planning
how
board,
would you
it goes to
want?
commission.
This
So
is you,
it's not the
right?
architectural board saying,
Do we
we
foresee
recommend or not recommend, it's just, it
like
meets
some
or,
office
it meets
space,
our
or
guidelines
retail,
and our standards.
restaurants, townhomes,
So you're saying,
condos, parks?
mixed
No
business,
to-
this or-
What do we see?
No to fast food.
There's no,
What's that thing?
well, office leasing signs out there.
Correct.
I understand the need for commercial, but what we have is currently nothing, it's like daycare here. There's less than, it's empty. So, you know, if there's, you drive around and there's
Right in front of it.
10 daycares in
Oh,
town.
yeah.
There's no waiting
So
list for
in
any.
between those two, it's
So
a
why do we have 10
neighborhood
acres?
residential,
Like,
which is small
overdeveloping
residential.
one facet, I just don't understand. I just don't understand.
Well, one thing that's gonna happen, you can't dictate exactly what kind of business will go in there. Like, we have daycare. So they can choose if they want it to be a daycare, if it meets the land use and code area. So if it was zoned residential, then they couldn't put land use. I mean, they couldn't put something, right? So thinking of that, like just in mind, and just, you know, to Richard's point, I know I own some office space, and one thing that I know is people will leave those parking signs up for never, even though they're not supposed to, it doesn't mean.
Thank you.
it's-
Really look at
It
looking
doesn't
at it.
mean
It's
that-
not as much
It doesn't
out there as
mean,
you think.
it doesn't mean that they're really available, and it might not be the right size for someone, so.
I'll say though, like the office space here, actually, sorry, it's all here. It's been there since like the eighties. To me, that like fits kind of the character of a lakefront.
Main Street, offices.
Yeah,
Where
you know,
Hungry Howie's.
Yeah, you're not Hungry Howie's with the stuff right next to it.
Correct.
You know, it's maybe 2 stories, you know, it's not industrial looking, it looks like it just fits into the fabric of the town as opposed to.
So like a 2-story retail / commercial space.
I'll give you the perfect example, and they just built it, and it's just been kitted out as that new one they put right, I think it's
And
right.
Rick's Square.
Is that where it is? And it's that, it's a
That
cute
Cape
little
Cod-
office
that
building,
Cape
it's
Cod
got
looks
2 stories.
That
That kind of
Fits the character of what
fits,
you're-
it makes it look like a home, makes it look like our small town.
So how do you leave this when some of these categories are so broad? Like you say, okay, well, I think that this lot right here should be something that's, town center. So it talks about live, work, shop, small office, those kind of things. Well, now all of a sudden you have townhomes in here. daycare. That's not what
For
we're.
primary use?
Or secondary and primary.
Yeah, so
Primary is down.
I would use,
So then you come, so then you come over here to commercial and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna make it suburban business center. Because it can be a small office. Well, now you can make it a bank or flex space. Flex space is industrial.
it's true.
I just don't know how to.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna come back, and we can make the notes to it now if we want. We can say, whichever one you pick, we can see which one, I would focus on the primary land uses as opposed to secondary.
Okay.
And then we can make notes if we want to, saying, you know, it's office space, but the way that we're seeing this, remember, it's 2 to 3 stories, we can't. We're going to.
Is there a way to do office and retail only?
Yeah, there is.
What's that category?
Well, I don't know, but we can, even if you don't see a category, we can create a category.
Oh.
Which is why
I think that's suburban commercial center, and we just put some limits on it.
That was like you're saying, I had more problem with like the stuff that is like mixed use is mixed use, but like mixed use if it includes a bank and fast food.
That's why we don't want to get too caught up in this. That's why we didn't start with this either, but it's fine, we'll create it. If it doesn't exist, we'll create it. So which one are you saying was, like, what?
I'm thinking it's the suburban commercial center. Granted, we got the pictures of the grocery stores and whatnot, but it talks about
Yeah, but it's not.
sit-down restaurants, multi-tenant commersul. We don't want the big box commercial, so it's kind of like an in-between.
It's how you use that at one point in time.
Seems like it fits more with the town center without the residential component.
At one time, the village, look at, what was village center? So there's a town center, there's a village center.
Right.
And what it used to be is the village center was what you just described. But it was limited to 2 to 3 stories. But what was recently changed is they changed the building height on those. And that's what caused the problem. So
Typically stand 2 or more stories.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's.
Now you can go
Right,
by.
right, man's road.
Now you can go to like 4 or 5 stories.
But we can limit that, right?
But that's,
Okay.
and we might find that, you know what, village center was original, right?
Especially around.
Probably
You don't want something that's.
So
that's-
you might want to buffer between
How the market
houses
will tell you what you need to.
and the rest too, right? Like, are you really going to put a house?
Oh, yes, if I had the new one.
So, Michael, can we say village center commercial only?
No.
Yeah, we can create anything we
Would.
want.
So that would eliminate the residential
We
traffic.
could.
Because I don't understand why they're doing any residential down Catawba, on Catawba. I just don't quite get that. I think we need residential, but I don't think we need it in our cluster area.
Especially when the roads are getting wide, more traffic, that's
Okay,
more
I'm sorry,
potential
I'm
for
just looking at it from a,
Street.
like,
Yeah.
in MLS,
Like,
it's
we
like
still
woods.
call this design.
It's always been commercial, I mean, it's always been commercial to here and then residential to here.
The biggest change was this village center, you know, especially, you
So
know,
we're deciding.
they changed the height of the building, height of the description. So usually like down here, if you look at the 2014 plan, it would have the characteristics 2 to 3 stories, right? That's what recently got changed. So it's not so much the idea, they can change, it's just the height. So maybe maybe that's what we want to go along with. If you want to call it, you know.
I think it's a village center.
Now, with regards to whether or not we should allow it to be mixed use or not,
That's right.
you know, in terms of residential, why would we allow residential?
Living next
Well,
door to something pleasant.
it might encourage the type of development that you want. Right? So,
To your point, though, the old mentality of the upper floors had to be residential, it just didn't work, because they
No,
weren't.
I totally agree. I would love to see
and
it
typically
in
what
this
I've seen
corridor right here.
in their
Would love to
presentation
see
to us,
it be
they would
mixed
sell
use
well,
or
but they didn't always
commercial,
stay well.
potentially some
And,
residential.
you know, I'm not a realtor, but that's just, you know,
At the end of the day.
that's my
when you-
understanding. That's
The
what-
ones downtown where it
You
was
wanted to make it
downstairs retail,
somewhat
upstairs
like
residential,
maybe
across the street.
those
somewhat
sat.
like Charlotte. It
You know, when
needs
they
to
were
be
put
like
in
a
15,
mix.
20 years ago, they sat,
Love that.
because they weren't financeable.
My town is
What
so
were-
look at these
what are the
roads and
most
whatever, and
successful
trying to fit that
neighborhoods that we've seen
into
built
one
in the
of
last
these.
15 or 20 years in Cornelius that you like?
We live in them.
I mean, I like, there's,
I know residential.
You're saying it should be 4 lanes.
like, I think Weatherstone's a nice little, it's Weatherstone's
Yeah, but-
super
Yeah.
secluded. I
Agreed.
feel like,
Yes.
Like a setback.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not-
that,
it's not
yes,
exactly
like,
just
the
like
different
Washington.
things.
Okay.
It's just-
Next to it.
it's just-
Okay.
the elementary school, right?
Yeah. Robbins is such an anomaly, like, we can't die in to the county that's going to be a swap deal
So
again, like.
from here to here.
So they put the right type of houses in there, they kept it small, they kept
I
it.
just don't want to see
So if
townhomes
you
right
could
up
create
against the
a
house.
Again,
walkability,
we can change, where do you guys
Except for
want,
junk.
where do you guys want these stickers signifying red, or village center? How far up and down? Do you want it for the majority of right along?
I think so, all the way to Nance.
To then
Is that
stop
right?
here, or stop here, or stop here.
Oh.
That's the
Here,
blue.
To
The
here.
village center is
Do
the
you
light,
know?
light blue.
Are we doing
More
blue
likely to
Yes.
instead of red?
than
Yes.
to know that I have to walk a
The
mile
circle.
and a half.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
that's- you got
colors
those
on the
squares.
right.
I was just making sure
So
we
if you
feel
create
it.
the walkability, then it essentially is just like Charlotte, I grew up here. Like,
Just
put it on
born
top
and
of it.
raised
Yeah,
here.
there, yeah.
Downtown.
So when she pulls it off, it's
Charlotte,
red again.
as it was when I was born, it was like tumbleweeds. When
So
I
here,
first started,
why don't you guys
just
put-
to trick you.
Why don't you guys get that going?
It was tumbleweeds.
All the way down.
6 o'clock here.
Far up where we go.
Nobody
All the way
was
to
around.
Nance.
And so what they do is they essentially create.
Because
all
that's
that.
basically what it's gonna be
And now
anyways,
it's
right?
Well, Nance is the
flooding because of the walkability aspect
So
of
all the way up to the.
Right up to Jungle, right up to that little
From Nance,
split.
Westmoreland, there'll be 4 crosswalks.
And what we can do, at least we can do this, guys, at least
Yeah.
we have between now and when we revisit to determine if we definitely want to take out
Do we want to
residential,
write?
right? Like we have village center. Now we
We
can,
don't want to say no residential.
we can say with a preference
Right,
towards
and that's what I'm saying,
non-residential,
like,
whatever you want to do, but we'll have
when
time
you
to
wanna
come
talk
back.
about
We'll come back and
We
do further.
literally, after we design the land use designation, we're literally gonna come back and say, what's the maximum? We're gonna go through that exercise, just like we did for this,
Everything.
but to keep it fresh in our mind, if we want to take notes, that it's preferred,
preferred,
or if we want to leave it open, that's fine.
But the only caveat I got
It
is
is not
reported in
like
Alexander
a
right now.
destination place. It's not like a restaurant, it's not like it's something to go to.
So
And
that's-
this, we boarded into this piece of property, this one.
So that's
And
why, yeah, so that's.
what's
just-
currently there, that little piece right there is
So,
the
so that's why I was pulling this up.
independent living
Basically,
apartments.
Still, it still fits this though, because,
And then you're
But then if
talking
we're gonna come back in-
residential just off the road.
yeah, we would have to carve that out if we want
Right.
that piece to be
Correct.
more yours.
Do you want to put another
The orange.
Yeah.
color back? with
Well,
your
I know what I would
representation?
like to put there, but I also don't wanna be the.
What would you
So
want to
there's
put
not
there?
really residential.
The red, that's what I was trying to get red.
I think we have a cow zone, yeah, brown.
We can make it brown and white.
No, ideally I would, but
Yeah, I mean, so does that become, park or something, or,
we've got a park in there, so that's good.
This is park, right, this is a good park right here.
Can we do mixed?
And what about right in here?
That's all Alexander.
Hey,
Yes.
Becky, where's
Okay,
our?
so it's all done. Yep, that's Westmoreland.
So
It's not done until I dig,
There's
right?
one lot right there, this is gonna be a daycare.
Okay, so just so
No
you guys,
financial,
yeah.
it's the Canes,
I'm about to say.
and it's this piece of property right there.
And that's gonna be a really big,
Right there, it just, well, I
And
don't
don't-
know if it's part of it.
don't forget, guys, all the way down here,
And their sidewalks
this,
go up and down.
this whole area of, land is
And
gonna
I
be,
ran that.
this is gonna be Atrium's gonna develop.
One time.
All
And-
of this.
But-
So it's right
I
there.
know, right? He was thinking like, oh.
That's
But,
phase 3 of Robin Park.
Yeah, this is, oh, sorry, yeah. so
Connectivity is
after they-
amazing.
This
There's
is
a
the color
difference
map that's
between
screwing up.
connectivity and walkability.
But all of this, like
If
on the
you're
other side,
talking about
77,
being
all of this
moving
down to
physically
the hospital,
walk,
but when this develops,
Absolutely. Is there anything
This
to
area,
go to? Not yet.
you
So
want to
that's
consider
what I
how
would
you
say.
want that to
So if you
develop
just want
with
to
the
write,
hospital. That's good. You're not gonna put
small
on neighborhood
mixed-use
problem,
office
right
business
next to
on
it.
the
I don't know,
road.
look at Mooresville, they got
Mixed
multi-family.
residential behind it, that would be fine.
But I'm not gonna tell you what you're gonna wanna do or not, but
I'm
they
not
probably
saying
will be
that.
able to attract vendors, and partners, and medical offices and things.
So I think that part, I mean, I know we're not doing that, but that corridor is perfect for that, it's industrial.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
that's
no
what's all right
residential.
here, it's all empty, that was where that Alexander Lee was
And
supposed
hope,
to be.
it is, and hopefully we'll get another exit here. So just bear that in mind as we're looking over here if we want to change anything here. So that big building is going here, right? So that's going to be what? We're gonna keep that the same, I think, right?
That's
So my 2 cents, I know we're not talking about traffic, but if you're gonna have a giant clear campus here,
Yeah.
some of the traffic to us.
Honestly, it's because it's sideways.
Someplace
You let
else
me
for
right
lunch.
this way?
Which
No,
one?
seriously, I can right this way. I wasn't thinking about
So
it.
more like.
I'm left-handed, so you're like, everything is turn. This is exactly how it works.
suburban business.
And a grocery store.
Medical office, corporate
Pretty little.
office. I think that's more the suburban.
No, the Lidl's right there.
Yeah. Little is supposed to be right on this corner.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was finding.
And then,
Grocery stores, banks, and it's food.
Here's some images of suburban business center, right?
Which is what that's zoned for now, right? For that corner.
I have to gotta be double check, but that's your multi-tenant professional office, medical office, corporate office, call center.
And that is the feedback.
I would imagine.
This is what they.
You know, somewhere, at least as you get closer to Statesville, that's what we're gonna start doing.
So that's, I gotta tell you, that first.
Suburban business.
Handful that.
Suburban business could be one, right? That is suburban, probably, because, I mean, it could be suburban commercial, but I'm thinking it's more suburban business.
So what are
It's the same color.
Up, did you see that? Oh,
yes,
it's through the same-
and the reason is the categories you were working off of last week had some of these combined.
This is,
So that's why I put dots on the
So
side,
that's where it.
was
Well,
to stick with those categories.
we're gonna write,
So,
and this was Village Center, is that what you call it? We're just gonna just think senior. We're gonna be a little bit more specific, since we have it. We didn't have it last week. So we're gonna do that, is that all right, guys? And then we'll do suburban,
the other
business and
thing is
family.
if you want, if you want to put types of businesses in there, then we can try and
Now,
categorize
it's
it
easy for
after
us
that
to get
to
that in now.
enable your
It will be,
conversation.
not only.
One of these
But
large,
it's up to you.
there's a lot on there.
One of these large lots in here, you know?
So those are condos. So along this and behind that's an apartment complex.
Pedestrian pass on.
Oh, it's just not broken out?
No, that's all the farm. All this is Alexander, all this is going back is Alexander.
Oh, it is all out.
So Alexander Farm, and once you get right here, is that office building they're gonna build, and then right about here is where legacy apartments are. This is all housing, and then once you get to here, once you go over the highway, it's like a storage, office, boat mechanic, auto mechanic.
What's right here?
That is woods.
That's
That's all.
along the edge, it's not
Put
much.
those stickers on there for me. When you guys get to see what's there right now, you see how they're.
Do we want
So
to
there's
keep that?
there's a creek that goes right down there, so we'll be there building.
That's the greenway.
Is there any other
Yeah,
place?
Greenway's right beside it.
Do we want to zone this anything?
Any other
Yeah,
area?
I don't think
Like
we can,
What-
it should be whatever rural,
We'll move on to area number two.
Preservation, whatever it is. You guys,
I don't think so, but there's still one challenge.
The reason it was rural preservation was just something about the property
All right,
owners on
guys,
their
they said they'll be
taxes.
good in 5 minutes to report out.
Okay.
So, you think they'll be good to report out in 5 minutes?
There are lots of.
What can we-
not
what
What
can
you
we
just
report?
said, the only reason that was zoned rural preservation was for the tax owners,
That
for the tax reasons.
Yes, from a zoning standpoint.
Well, put it,
Required
you know, again, put it the way you want.
That's fine.
We
Tag.
got you conversion, I don't know why you said
Correct.
Yeah, because it needs roads to get to it, so that's taking up all the land.
Maybe to
Correct.
promote that. Okay,
Talked
so,
about that with
south
police.
of,
He doesn't want to come over west of Tom.
North of that.
never mind,
It's
okay.
dangerous.
Yeah, so all of this
But off
was
west of
originally
Tom, he doesn't
zoned
like
rural
it.
preservation.
And that's where the car dealerships be, and
Right.
they're already starting to dig.
Right, right.
What do we
We'll get a
want
later
that?
back in.
Are you
One
going-
little piece of business campus, the town had originally wanted that as business campus zoning, but that's when the owners came back to us and said,
Well,
Some
and we can
taxes
say
are
if we want
processed
business
for
or
The reason
business.
why we need to do that is it, the second they put a highway in there, that dealership is gonna want a road to the highway.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how
They're
to
gonna wanna put a road
create
because there's no easy way to get down to Charcoal.
walkability and make it
Off the
easy
highway
so
right
that
now.
we
And
can
then I think,
reduce
well, just make
traffic.
all that rural preservation, right, just
Yes.
buffer all the way down.
Well, you've got the car dealership, the car repair place there,
Yeah.
Those bikes and his e-bikes.
so.
You can't build, there's nothing, I used to live in the apartment right here.
So there's not enough. No, there's not.
It's in there.
There's a creek there, so
Yeah.
you get the watershed.
So what do we want to make these lots along here?
So maybe we do
Not going
something
up
to
that far,
promote
right?
that.
Yeah,
Well,
we
just
should-
fine, just right here, just right here. I mean, what do we
That
want
should be green
industrial?
wherever it's there.
No.
lot of people would like that.
Yes, that would be
On the greenway.
Yeah, but this,
It's kind of like
this stuff that's
Boomer.
up charged.
That like, somebody
Yeah,
can
it's
live
already,
there.
it's already there, yeah. It's already, it's
Not
commercial.
That's not something.
Now that
Our
we're
dealers
going
are
to-
not industrial.
No, but the,
But it's
I like
all
all the
both
both
commercial.
commercial.
It's not even shaded, it's sunny and.
Yeah.
From what I saw, the only industrial areas we have in the town are over off-road.
But it stays.
You know, one thing I said when I started doing this, is that every decision or input I have is gonna be, if I live here, would I want some shit done to my house? If I live right there and somebody bulldozed it and put an office building, yes, I don't live anywhere near there, and that sucks for those people. That guy, and all those people
Yep.
suck.
We're already pissed about the cart, and they were wanting to do
I will tell you, that's actually.
trails through the woods for their trucks.
Probably within the
Yeah,
next
it was for
12
the Jeeps,
months,
because they wanted to sell
every
Jeeps. and-
non-residential development.
Little trail path.
so what do we want these,
Every
no,
multifamily
excuse me, just a year, we're just doing this stuff.
where we do it.
What do we want
So we
these
can
zoned?
say it, it's not.
They're zoned what now? Commercial, like commercial?
You said campus, right? Business campus.
The one further south is,
Behind commercial.
no wait, yeah, on the north side.
I've got a long way to go with charging stations, I just picked up.
One is, I think, industrial campus additional
300 homes, we
district,
have one charging station.
and,
Not enough.
the little bitty one is business campus,
Driving
Oh, yeah.
more of these.
and then everything except for
Plug in.
that one. So you've just gone through an approval
Well,
process.
the other thought there, I'm sure, is facing the highway, we're not gonna want.
And
Never
and
gonna-
bless all y'all.
So some kind of, potentially a business might wanna be there, or you might want some light industrial or vendors, you know, supporting the hospital or something like that. It wouldn't make sense
The
to
answer,
have
what
access
answer
to
is
it.
no.
Well, not,
The
well,
longer answer is.
but it's
you
okay.
have ADD just
I
like
mean,
I do.
it doesn't mean that,
And
it
I
There won't be
would prefer
roads
to
in-
plug
doesn't
that
mean there
thing
won't be
in.
roads or
As
that,
we
and they
do,
wouldn't ask
we
for
would
road
be
plugging.
sitting there with
There
big
will be
cars,
a
so
challenge
not being
getting
able to plug them in.
Correct.
through here.
Correct.
Until like
Huge
they
environmental
automatically
challenge,
recharge
which
in
is
some
why the
capacity,
town
like,
had
no.
originally stuck
Teenagers
these two
remember
streets for the
Christmas
connectivity
Well,
over
they
the
remember.
summer.
If they
So you
want
didn't
to.
anticipate going
Yeah.
down.
I'm sorry.
The town didn't
That's
anticipate
a good
going
valid
down.
point, regardless of not
Not
selling
really.
a car,
Yeah.
matching
So then you want to
testing,
leave it.
because I don't remember.
Yes.
Well, get
All
them,
right.
what's the one that's.
One other thing to remember is that
That's what you
Westmoreland,
said.
Westmoreland is a state-owned road.
Yep.
We have no control
Yes,
over that
it's a
road.
small
Like, we can't even
electric car,
change the speed limit. I wanted to.
And
We tried to when we
So-
tried to.
Well,
That's what we said.
Two front, two
All right,
sides,
and then we've got,
and it goes up to like just about 70 miles an hour. It has a sports,
right.
thing,
But-
and a
but
regular
King,
size
yep.
thing.
and green
that's
finish
just your
with
idea.
that.
This is like, oh,
Then you got the Alexander.
look at the road.
Lots.
You
That's
weren't
King.
sure whether
That's
it was
King.
gonna
Qualifier.
tank or not, but anyways, it just makes me think about the first version, that would be amazing.
Suburban businesses.
The same color, but just different.
That way we'll buy
Yeah.
All right, and then we want to leave this the same, right, which is, that ended up going into some mixed use. Do you know what color we have for mixed use?
The glockenspiel.
Now, listen, if they don't end up developing Alexander, is that still how you want it?
Nope.
Then how do you- then-
Don't say cow.
then
I
what is
miss
it?
those cows.
Is it single family
Lottery,
residential?
if you wanna make that cow, you can do whatever you want.
What is it then? Because that's not the way we
Yeah,
have
the
to do
next
this.
one,
If
they'll
you-
break
because
this out.
they-
If
they
it
may
fails
not-
through, but and to his point, they're coming back for rezoning or to try to
It sounds
escape
like they're gonna go
rezoning.
through it, but if they don't,
And is
it's
it
what
all
happens
done
when
in
you
writing?
Before they put shovels in the ground,
Are you done?
anytime they make a change.
Alexander Farm.
Is that empty?
Yeah, probably go with
Mixed.
red.
A lot of it's still
It's
around.
fine if it was just the usage was designated.
Where's the residential?
In what way? Like how does it?
Or residential components come along.
No, I'm saying, he's going.
Oh,
right
right
now.
here.
It doesn't have residential.
Mixed use, if it had some
Versus
variance,
if you go,
you know, if it was a development that actually made sense, it fit into the community,
Yeah,
it wasn't just.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. It actually, if you look at the elevations of it now, it's really not.
No, it's not poorly, it's
Just the stuff that's in it.
So the comments for that would be that they need to work with architectural review committee to get that addressed, right?
And the other part, we can't control
Yes,
that.
yes,
Other
yes,
parts that have problems.
yes, yes,
Entrances and
yes.
exits.
We're just gonna find it, sorry.
And, I mean, forbid they put an entrance into my neighborhood.
Mixed use neighborhood.
Have already been?
Yep.
We have another blue.
Mixed use neighborhood.
Mixed use neighborhood.
Yep. They wants to move somewhere else, they.
That's right.
Monday.
All right. All right.
And are we good with that remaining that way? Is that classified, single family, condominium, apartment, townhouse, sit-down restaurant, community serving, commercial, professional office, government building?
Probably scratch the government, I don't know that we need government buildings.
No.
I mean, in general, we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
drill down, but in general, are we good with it staying that way? That's the way it is right now.
People running, they'll go running.
What we'll need to
Cow
do-
fantasy,
Well, it's gonna be a little bit different if they want the grocery store.
I guess community serving commercial, I don't know what that means. I don't think
Coffee shops.
There is a separate
I
one
know.
for grocery
Like
stores.
suburban town
There
center,
is, but
suburban.
community serving sounds.
That's smaller. That's gonna be smaller. The,
So we keep money on it, so that in the event.
grocery store's really
because at
different.
some point in time,
We
the
have an
water
image of
only
that
holds so much
somewhere.
water,
But that doesn't really fall in
Along
that.
with Fresh Market.
Yeah.
I think it was a suburban village.
That doesn't really matter.
We can come back and change it. And we can get more definitive on what we want it to be.
All right, so that's it.
So is that the only point we're doing?
Does that take everything in?
This takes in this. Can we do separate stickers?
Can we read it, this along this watershed, we'll say green?
Let's put it on, if that's what you
What do
want.
you want to green?
Because that's along the new trail.
There's some talk too on.
Right here?
It's gonna have
Yes,
to.
that's
Go ahead and
what-
put green on it, just.
Yeah, I got it right here. What about this right here? What is this?
That's an open lot, there's a, it might be an easement.
Yeah. Right here. Edinburgh.
Yep, it's green. The borders on those three houses.
I wonder if it can't be built. You'd think if it could, it would have been built.
Let's not worry too much about.
Well, they're getting, remember, so they're getting ready to stub out Nance Road into there.
Well, not only that, but to your point, crosswalk.
We're talking about right here.
One of my friends, her daughter was.
Oh, that's.
That's
There's an office
probably-
building that.
Put VC there,
That's
extend that.
probably open space if there's not a building there.
Would you
This
rather
isn't-
see that be residential, or would you rather see that be more business?
And
That's in the middle of that
dedicated-
neighborhood, just
dedicated
between
crosswalk.
Edinburgh Square
Like
and
in
West
certain
Lawn.
areas like that.
That's
I
a
mean, that's not
residential
me, like,
neighborhood.
the town's
On what type?
If you're talking like,
Single family?
No, that's what these
It's like
are right
behind the
here.
Penn Station.
These are townhomes,
and you
or
have to-
condos right now.
Those are
Oh, they
They're
already
already,
are.
that's already built, that's not open.
They already are.
So let's put
The lot to the left of it is a, that's where the palm reader and whatnot, and all that was. Which we've got VC, which is fine, but there's a green lot in behind it.
But this right here, you're saying is multifamily, right?
Yes. Do we want, yep. So,
Do we need to
So-
put
We need to
stickers on all
indicate
this
that.
stuff, because it already kind of is?
You're waving your flag.
The small lot, which already is kind of.
What page we have for
So you see the
family?
Do we want to keep it there?
I gotta come up over there.
Like, can we do this? Is that what you
Oh,
want?
yeah, oh, yeah.
Right there. That's that for the
that's
square
Edinburgh
area.
Square,
Yes,
yes.
Small lots right there.
Open one right there.
Right.
And two big ones right beside it.
I think so.
Well, yeah, that's the Molly made and then the closed, insurance company, right?
No, that's the two small ones below it. Those two right up there, one is the former palm reader. And then there's that, used to be a pool, pool selling place. They've been empty for.
That's it, right there.
Right.
You wanna look at that,
Right
John?
now,
Keep that
there's
residential?
no
Small-
place.
red,
So
small
what would
lot
you like to
residential,
see
right?
there?
Well, I think if we're following our business, our BC, I think it matches. The problem is it's a really big piece of land.
So they're there, and you can see
Comparative to these smaller tracts and an exit to
You
septic.
like when you come in.
Who would like to report out for our group? We're gonna do
I wish
just
we
a
could.
2 or 3 minute report out on what we did and why.
community.
So that piece is. John's got,
You wanna-
John's
I'm not
got,
good.
John's got the winning smile.
I'm not good with it. One of you guys arm wrestle for it.
I lose. They want them across the top.
Almost ready for a report out?
We're more than.
All right.
Sweet.
So what we're gonna do.
I gotta remember.
Hey, first, we're ready for a report out. We did. Yeah.
With their markers.
So look, making progress. Next, who wants to go first? So what we're gonna have each group report out, right? Just essentially, we're gonna, go on up there, whoever's gonna report out, you go up there with your team. We're gonna look at what you did. And you're gonna share with everyone what you did and why you did it, okay? Both groups are gonna do that, and if they're the same, we're done for that piece right now. If they're different, we'll have an opportunity to discuss, what do we think we should do, right? With that space. So, what do you guys, Ava, Susan?
Can they go first,
You wanna go
only
first?
because
Yeah.
they actually
Sure,
called on it?
so everyone kind of come around if you can't see it from back there, if you're not familiar with it. Go ahead, Fred.
Two things.
Why don't you share with everyone kind of what our main thoughts were for this?
So we did the bottom quarter, and what we did was, we stuck along the watershed, so there's a creek down there, there's where the new walking trail is, we wanted to keep that all rural, keep it all treed in and that way. We got the Alexander property, we kept to small business, suburban, there we go.
For the office.
Yes, and what was the other one?
The rest of it is MUN.
Mixed use
Neighborhood.
residential neighborhood, there you go.
Mixed use neighborhood.
And then up along Catawba, all the way from Westmoreland to just about Nance Road, those frontage properties, we were keeping the same theme of village commercial, 1, 2-story buildings, mostly commercial, not so much, no banks, no more fast food. And the red, what do we have as red?
Residential.
Small residential.
Small residential,
Small residential.
which is
And the
currently there
red
now.
on here is suburban commercial.
We changed it to
No, there's
the
another red.
village commercial.
Just write it in there, just so we know.
There's more red.
Yeah, I didn't realize
That's
that.
small lot, this one right here, small lot residential neighborhood.
Small lot residential.
She said you,
That's
you
M
grouped
now.
them, right? Because they were already.
They were.
That's what we are.
Previously.
Those neighborhoods are about, fifth of an acre.
That's
I
what
know
they
it
were.
because I cut it.
Definitely small lot.
I bought it on purpose, 'cause kids played soccer and we were never home.
So, did you guys, so this, and as you said, that was Village Center right here. The difference being Village Center today, some of it, some of the building heights have changed in some of the areas for Village Center. We addressed that. We're concerned about building height. When we start putting those definitions in there, we will define that, with those concerns in mind. But the ideal, we're okay with what was there before.
Keep in mind, if you want an office or a retail space there, if you don't allow a higher story with the prices of land, it's not gonna make any sense. So if we set something up that will never work, we're wasting our time.
Plus adequate parking forever.
Well, there are some constraints. It's, you could be wasting your time, or you could be making a decision that infrastructure doesn't support it today, maybe one day it will.
Good
So,
point, good point.
And, not sure that's a concept everyone will readily understand when it gets published, right? But it's certainly within our rights to do that while we're here.
I just didn't want to get bogged down in the, we don't want multiple heights.
Right.
We're never gonna have a standard height down Catawba, because you have different construction at different times.
We can cap the heights.
Yeah.
There's plenty of towns that did
We
a very
can,
good job
we
managing
can,
it.
we can cap.
And we can also do, like John showed us, that picture of Rock Hill where they put trees along the street to kind of buffer, like, the part that comes to my mind is, and she brought it up, where we get to the boat repair and storage areas, whatever, and if you're driving down Catawba, I'm sorry, it looks like an eyesore on both sides there for a bit. If we had some kind of architectural design for how our streets would be lined, like we did it here downtown, we buried the lines, made it look really quaint. We can do that on the other side, even though we're gonna have 6-lane, whatever highway they're calling it.
It's a really good question. So Wayne, how, if we have recommendations for the architectural review committee, how do we do that?
You just make that recommendation, and when the board adopts it, we take it to the committees to draft that. Now, what I will say, and you just don't see it a lot because we don't get a lot of new development, but we actually have the most restrictive on-street tree planting, street buffers. Matter of fact, we just adopted those in 2018, and we match Hilton here. That's what, our previous board and our code advisory board had they set a goal, they had a list of what they call aspirational cities we want to be like. that are already doing it right. And so like on the landscaping, we pretty much copied Hilton Head and Cary.
Hilton Head, not Myrtle Beach.
That's right, not Myrtle Beach. But our buffers are more restrictive than anybody in this region. So when you get a new development, you get a great variety of street trees. We look at the whole corridor to see, we don't want to require trees that are susceptible to disease. We want to look for color. We look for fall and spring color.
When you say restrictions, is that just residential or commercial?
It's everything.
So,
But here's the challenge,
Legally.
though, is at the end of the day, we can put these standards in place and requirements as far as buffering and whatnot, but the commercial space, residential, regardless, if they're already there, they're grandfathered.
So like the boat place that.
Exactly, so the
Trees are
boat
coming
place,
up.
as long as the boat place is there, it's always gonna look there. You
But
cannot make
question.
them put anything in front.
The question to that, they're getting ready to tear up jet
Yes.
in front of those boat places. Do we have opportunity there to enforce the new standards because the road is being moved?
Well, the town will plant what we desire in the cross section. Now, on the private property, they won't do anything until they develop or redevelop.
Okay.
But the town will do landscaping. Matter of fact, that's in our cross section. We're
Can we
planting.
encourage?
Yes, we can encourage, and that's, and Patrice and I were just talking about that. I call BV Belk at least 3 times a year. And I'm saying, BV, you got the ugliest thing on the corridor. And if you've ever talked with BV, he laughs for 2 minutes and then says, Wayne, I hear what you're saying, but no, I'm not gonna spend money on that. And now the good thing is, it's for sale. He's just trying to get the right price. Those 2 boat storage places will not be there in 2 years.
Got it.
So in 2 years, we'll have something.
So if we get it in place, when they come in and redevelop it, they're under those new rules.
And the good thing is, we already have very high landscape standards in place.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean we can't increase them, but I don't want you to think we don't have anything. We have very.
No, and that's cool. That's all
Yeah.
we were trying to
Wait, I
ask.
have
Good
a
job.
question, because when I see new development, and I've been at the architect review, it's just very simple green boxwood, no grow to 3 feet. I mean, it's, to me, just a very sterile.
Well, what you're talking about is inside the parking areas. And inside the parking areas, we don't go too overboard, and the reason we don't, at one point we did, but it's hard for people to keep that stuff alive. The emissions from the cars, there's a lot of things that kill plant material. So unfortunately, inside the parking areas, right now, we still require shade trees. You still have to have oaks, maples, whole 9 yards. But when it comes to the greenery around it, and all cities are learning this, you have to be careful what you require because it's killed. And it's hard to maintain it. So we have to require things that are hardy and sturdy, which are not always the most aesthetically pleasing.
so, great questions. Wayne, next meeting, what's the best way for us to get like a flipboard chart or something? Because these questions are all awesome, and I don't want to lose the thoughts. But what we're gonna have to be very careful of is, what's that?
Well, we're recording it. Becky's also taking notes, but we'll get the flip chart.
Having a flip chart, so when we have, like, I'm just using this as an example. It's important, we'll have a quick question, but if we find ourselves getting into too much detail
We'll come back.
on, then we can say, you know what, we want to know more about this, but right now, we have another report out to do, and we have to keep getting through this section. So if we can get that item on a parking lot, we won't lose those good thoughts, because I don't want to lose them, because they're
That's good.
excellent questions.
Yep.
Okay?
Agreed.
And great job, Fred. Man, all right, so if you ever need, another land use, permanent guy here, I think we found one. But I think, the guys in our group did a fantastic job. Did you guys have any surprises by what they reported out?
No,
Okay, can you guys share with us what you guys were able to do?
yeah, we have great handwriting. Susan put a neat description. We didn't use the docs. But we're very close to what Fred just reported out. But Ava, Susan, if you want to mention some of the little,
Just go over what the
it's very similar to what was just reported.
So we wrote on here, and so we looked at this corridor, and what we did was we basically said, this is already, residential. What we didn't actually discuss was this part of it, which I think you guys did a better job, like, as far as like this piece at 77. Right now, well, we weren't thinking about that, honestly, because we were thinking, and I didn't think about it either, but this part is, if Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is highway commercial.
No, it is open land that can, and I like y'all's green spots, but as you get north, it turns into business campus going up Chartwell.
Right,
where
but
the car
just in the,
dealerships are.
just in the segment that we were looking at, it's not, there's no road access.
Right.
and
Right.
It's not buildable,
And
right?
so this
So-
is
We
like,
just wanna make sure and enforce that fact.
Yes.
And luckily, not just us, but the state requires that the state.
and so this is like Life Church, like the body shop.
Wait,
where
wait,
they're
wait.
going.
So that little diagonal almost
Yeah.
looks like a home plate, that's
Up
the
here.
body shop one. The one above
Oh,
that, the
sorry.
bigger lot
Yes,
is
over here.
the new car dealership.
So we didn't talk about that where you guys put the green dots, but everything else, I think we're all in agreement. Like we didn't put, because we were trying to color and we got confused. So we just decided just to write it. Small mixed office and retail, 2 stories or less with character. Residential behind on each side, so basically mixed residential, commercial. We put no convenience stores, and one of the things that we also talked about was also including charging stations. So as we're talking about connectivity and walkability, that we have those things put in place so that you can go from point A to point B, and you can physically walk them, you know, and there will be places that you can actually stop, as opposed to what it looks like right now, whereas you have to go from here to here, and there's nowhere to stop in between.
There's no walkability either.
No, there's
I
zero
tried to walk
walkability.
that.
Especially on the right side.
of the road.
Huh?
Yes.
There is, but it's only on the west side of the road.
No, but there are sidewalks, that's different than walkability. There are sidewalks that go all the way up. You can walk it,
All the way to
there's
the
a
top.
different,
There's
No.
not-
there's a
Only on
different
one half.
definition
Yeah.
from having sidewalks to actual walkability. So from a walkability perspective, it's that you have places to go that you want to walk to.
And we use the term destinations.
Yeah, so like, you know, when I use this reference point that I used to run a long distance, and so we put money in our pockets so that when we get to somewhere, because you can only have so much water, like you know that you can buy water, like you know that you can, if you decide you want to go to somewhere, you know that that's along your path. And I think that that's really kind of the thing that's missing here, like, and we talked about, and y'all make sure I'm saying this correctly, we talked about me all the way up even to, until Bethel Church, like, to create that same kind of look and feel, that if I want to go somewhere, I can walk to go here, because then it will reduce traffic congestion, it will create that aspect of community, and I think that's what we've been looking for, that we've kind of been missing on the Catawba.
Can we have a second flip chart as well? Because I think the other thing I don't want to lose, because we had the same types of ideas, we had concepts in mind when we put the land use down, that we don't have to designate it detail level now, but maybe we don't want to lose those thoughts, right? Like what you guys came up with. So if we had another chart where we could just put key concepts, characteristics, and we'll capture those notes so we don't lose them. So when we come back to do those definitions, you know, we're not starting completely from scratch. Those are 2 things that we'll add to the process next time. All right. Do we have another one in us? The next section over, all the way to, well,
Say Bethel Church Road,
To
Nance
Bethel.
to Bethel.
Nance to Bethel. We can do that again, right, one more time, and then, if anyone, you know, who can stay to finish that out? I'm guessing it's a half hour. What time do you have to leave, Richard?
I was gonna leave about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes?
Yeah, things started.
And you have to leave at 6?
Yep.
Can we get this done by 6 o'clock?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go for it.
We can at least mark
Richard,
it, and then we
if you
can
gotta
explain
leave,
it.
then it's okay. If you don't like what we did, too bad, no.
Hey, I
Come
understand.
back, come back. All right, we'll do the same thing. Thank you, guys.
I'll stay. No,
That's
Junker.
red line.
Yeah, I would actually, where you're pointing now, I would let that go into the next section. This section, I would come from Bethel, just come straight across. Maybe
This road is supposed to be extended.
Bethel.
What is this? It's grass, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what we told you in the beginning.
I was thinking it was like
My
this,
call
and
is
then
green.
this, and then,
No.
no.
Green?
Yeah, yeah.
Green, I'd love to keep the trees there.
Because this is just all.
We've got a town
We can
center
talk
here
about
where
that,
you've
because
got
these are more
grocery
high
stores
traffic
and bars and whatnot. That provides a buffer to both neighborhoods. And it's along the walking trail.
But now, it currently doesn't allow
I'd be okay with that.
Or is,
So we don't need any more
park
park space.
development, like, yeah, as much as,
But this is.
so the other park, just for reference, is up.
Is
Is there another category that might achieve the look that you're going for and still allow for
Well,
some
here's
development?
the other thing, there's a watershed issue right now.
You have to have a hatch line.
Green.
So it makes it look,
They got a huge parapet up there covering.
I-
And you're gonna put your VC is gonna go here again.
Right.
I'm sure they have something up there.
Yep.
And 2 stories is great.
I love color.
Well, you mentioned like, desk business or something.
We're all good with that.
Yeah.
Do we wanna keep this?
I personally would love to see it.
Well, let me ask you this, this is a little bit of a blown,
You got it.
a little bit of a blown up.
On the top or something.
A lot like
Somewhere.
UPS.
Yeah. Warina
Your
boat.
office over there.
Yeah.
Boatyards there,
Stuff that
the
people
storage
use on
units there,
bottoms and
storage
then
units
offices,
there.
that,
Two boatyards right there.
Storage unit is on the other side, next to Marina, it's not behind it.
Is there a way to get,
I used to have part of it on.
is there a way to get to, is there any way, any kind of easement, or any kind of access through here? Not even a slingshot.
Norman sold it, he sold all that waterfront.
And hopefully as we redo Chaton.
Is that storage on parking?
It's
boat storage, it's not storage units. So you've got the Lake Norman storage right there, right at the corner of Finance, right there. This is the
That's
boatyard, yeah, and then that's all the boat storage behind it. And then across is Northern Power and Sports as well. There's the White House and that open lot where it's on Goodwill.
You're right, I thought it was on that side, but that was the old power source.
Yes.
That was there.
Correct. Since they haven't built it yet, what else, what else could you foresee going here?
Yeah, I remember that, and that was.
Maybe
Brenham, or
something
saying, like,
cool,
probably,
right? Like,
yeah.
you
Or
know,
like
something
somewhere
that
around-
citizens can use. We've talked, I think we threw out the idea of having like a pottery or,
You have
you
cats
know,
right there.
something
So
cool,
why not-
something that the town can do, something that's within, you know, the identity that we're trying to create. Is there anything other than apartment buildings that we would rather have there? Right? I think so, right? So what would it be?
Can we coerce Old Mecklenburg?
Yeah, right.
Feasible and unable to get to them?
Maybe. That'd be a good place. Well, so let's say you wanted to, why does it have to be Old Mecklenburg?
Well, I'm just thinking of something.
But I'm
big.
thinking,
Yeah, yeah.
but it could be something like
Because
that.
that's not a small property.
No, it's not, but wouldn't that be cool, right? Like, because that would be, because it's not a park, but you know, it's most expensive.
What if we did it,
No doubt.
It might be.
what if we
Maybe
did
they could
BC,
do something.
which does allow residential, but also commercial kind of mixed together?
That would even be better than just big old.
Then you could have
It
restaurants.
could be cool.
But, you know, here's the thing. Junker property when first sold to us. 300 apartments was all the first floor as retail.
But,
A big restaurant or what.
The look.
And we all bemoaned that fact because we were multiplying in our head 300 times 1.5
So it's
plus
not-
the
yeah,
traffic from the
so
retail.
it's not,
And that's
it's not
another
like, okay,
500-600 cars on the road that couldn't handle it today.
that's not what it looks
Is
like.
somebody sitting on the
Yes.
stoop or something?
So-
Yes, it's not like.
Depending upon the size of what you're talking about for how big you want it, how many units are we talking, how many square footage for commercial or retail? I'm not against it, I'm just trying to think of the size
think
of
those
what
are
the
great
overlying.
What about town center? If you could do the residential mixture with the sit-down community serving, professional offices that were.
Town center's more dense than village center.
You know what I would really love to see, but it can never happen, And it's only because of this little piece of property. I would love to see some type of a pass-through to a waterfront entertainment area.
So, here's a category.
No, it's right here. and it's
Waterfront
just-
mixed use, is that what you mean?
Right, and there's just a couple little pieces of property, it's just, I know it's not doable there, so I'm gonna save it for later on.
Well, what we could do is we could start to put waterfront mixed use here, just because there are other things here. So you could kind of create that map. This is where, again,
This is where it's hard to, you don't want to get too blinded by what's there today. If you create the concept,
I hear what you're saying, but can we do that? Because I thought Wayne said if it was part of the
Watershed,
plan and the
but-
watershed, we couldn't.
I'm not sure that's part of it.
I have another spot in mind.
that's not part of the watershed.
Because you also have to think about a place that's gonna be big enough to bring boats in to dock up. Because my idea, my thinking is we wanna create a place where people are gonna come to the town, eat at our restaurants, eat at our places, but not drive a car. Get them coming from the point, get them coming from that.
For a single building.
So,
Here it is. That one down
does
here.
it work? So they were there. Is it working waterfront, the only waterfront from there?
Yeah.
So this is where the police.
I was thinking of the current land use plan.
I'm
but
sorry,
that's
you got my
all.
proxy.
That's 100% expensive.
Well, it won't be finalized, so.
My point is,
So here's the category, we can change it again, but it's being a sit-down restaurant, hotel, general office, as a primary use.
Do you wanna outline whatever area you're talking about and then put a number in it? And then, just write in what your uses are that you're talking about?
Yeah, right, yeah.
we can do something here, it's a small piece of tall.
So right now,
I mean, it's maybe a road to get through there. The road's already there, we just stuck through it, I just don't know who owns it there right now, and I hate to revisit, yeah. It's just these four lots right here.
and you know, in
You
some
see the roads
towns,
right
you can't
there.
even tell McDonald's, like a county.
It doesn't need to be
You know,
there.
just twins right
Saying in my head, I would just like to see it as a waterfront district.
And that's exactly.
And it can be where Hello
Hilton
Sitter is.
Like Hilton has like
That's probably better suited for some idea like that, just
Correct.
because it's all,
you know,
there's more of a
it's
campus
not
there. You can
commercial.
I'm good with that.
Like it's a true neighborhood.
So back to this area then
So
here.
it's the Junker property.
Yep, junker. What would we want?
Like, I think the breweries here might be too expensive, but you know what, here's the thing. Let's say it is too expensive, someone doesn't want to put something like that there, and they don't jock travel, then it sits empty until the roads can support it, and then it makes sense to do something else potentially, right? In which case, that would be okay, everyone felt like it was not important. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Which category is the brewery? Does that fall under?
It's gotta be BC.
Well, that, today's town center,
Like, I grew up in a town where like, they had preservation laws, and we weren't allowed to, they didn't look at the town map and go, how much money can we make for the people who want to develop this town? Because let's keep some green spaces, but for a lot of different reasons. If you need a reason to sell it, sell it.
You have mixed use neighborhoods, which also have the secondary land uses, natural areas, community centers, schools, and
But I think that covers your like, your pools and your.
Well, that's another thing I want to talk about too, because that's one thing Troy mentioned, is right now, we don't define open spaces as developers. So they're able to just carve out.
Correct.
10 by 10, and add it all up and account, and that doesn't count as a green.
Right.
Magnolia is considered what, that large residential? I think they're acre lots, right?
They are not 1 acre, but they can be half acre.
Definitely half.
So I think there's a general residential.
Acre lot. And that's what
Which
color?
is half acre, yellow.
Yellow?
Large is yellow.
Right.
I'm not changing that.
That's how
So it's just like bike versus car.
So we're the worst part of the hour here, we're just going to this corner.
Yeah, we're going up to Bethel. So if I go a straight line.
All right, well, we could, if you guys want, we could leave this VC, and when we do VC, we can add to it
That's fair. Subclass.
I watched a child today.
Can we do anything with this, or is it an easement? That's where the cell towers and the power transfer station thing is.
Not
But
even.
it's a good sized piece of property.
It's owned by Duke, so my guess would be
Considered
no.
industrial?
I guess it's.
Consider Duke doesn't run out.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would be the big
It's a-
X,
I know,
not
right?
touchable?
I know, right?
You're right, that would probably be the one if there is one.
And all this is.
Office, commercial.
This is where you have that CVS and all that
CVS,
stuff. Is all that
Brooklyn
gonna-
South.
Yep, all that, all that.
They're ahead of us.
That's gonna stay.
So that's four color.
Wow.
I would guess that's
Oh.
Village Center as well.
That's suburban.
Or, what's that CVS area right now? Wayne on the corner of Teton and Catawba back in there, the Brooklyn South and.
Well, that's all village center.
It is.
Village, so that's.
It is.
The only other thing that I still think is like where Irish Blue and that pot shop and everything else, like, that to me looks like something that somebody would change at some point.
Village Center.
That's still village center. And all we could do is apply some kind of architecture standards to it. That's basically this whole area.
So we're gonna go.
Publix is considered what? That's not village center, that's suburban.
They have enough grocery stores.
Because today,
Yeah.
Really?
I
So we can put a grocery store in village?
thought we were on the same page.
So is Harris Teeter village center?
Troy
Yes.
message to case we resubmit before.
I'm switching to dark food, there's no more light.
I'll talk to you.
I probably have them over here.
We don't wanna change that, right?
I think preserving green space in the middle of an area.
No, but this is where Publix is.
Oh, yeah.
Public is not gonna change.
Yeah, that's where I was going with. I'm good.
That's how they add it.
Yeah, I don't remember the dollar amount, but I remember talking about the price market for both.
Suburban Commercial
Yeah.
Center, which is red. It's just a SCC.
That's not fresh. That's Publix.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it's the same type of.
I specifically remember talking about.
But we're saying we can put the grocery store in village center, because it's there now.
Well,
Can, but then we'll have to
one thing I would
include
say,
it in all
my
of them,
experience in Kansas.
everywhere.
Okay,
So
so
if
that's
you don't
where,
want, so if you don't want a grocery store to go here, then you don't want to include it there.
I think you wanted to-
that's where it gets a little confusing, because things like the peninsula were approved prior
Way
to
before, yeah.
the town's zoning code.
I just think.
So then they got slotted
I think we're.
What you think of that?
in places that,
See if those primary uses don't. That's okay.
Hey, boss.
No, we can
don't want
take
that.
that, no, we can take that out.
We only have 6. Think about that. We only have 6. And if you figure 10 pumps, we've only got 60 pumps in the whole town, which is good.
And I enjoy not waiting.
I don't know.
That's personal.
The only part that really.
But yeah, we're not gonna do it. The Gene Center was looking at the whole area. Just do it.
So that's what he was asking.
What's your average time to get out? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Okay, so now you've got a pad of
Now you're really expanding.
10 pumps in the station.
And I would rather finish the construction.
You're replacing them every 10 minutes.
Now.
An electric, same. That person's gotta sit there 30 minutes to
I
an
think
hour.
we're good for now.
So now you're 10 charging stations.
You're gonna wanna put those
You
inside.
need 60 on that same side.
You're gonna wanna drop those
you're
inside
right.
yours.
However,
You're gonna drop those inside of your suburban commercial.
In the
So then you
parking
can
lots.
go
so
get
he has a
something to
walkability
eat.
that she was talking
Correct.
about.
Correct.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying, we can't.
Can't do it by itself.
You can't do a direct replace in addition to something that's already existing.
Right.
My recommendation is don't use village center, because you don't wanna add a grocery store in your village.
But the grocery store is already there.
It is, but so call it like suburban commercials.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? You don't wanna make.
Red?
Yeah.
So what
I like
we
to
would
be
do in
a
case
safe.
of what you were talking about with the charging station, is you need to make that an accessory use.
Wall.
Right.
couldn't be a principal use.
The other problem is, do they have enough power runners for that power plant?
They still have that lift there. I walked around,
Yeah,
and
that'd be-
people are gonna stop for you.
All right, so we gotta get to this corner.
As far as I know, Justin is supposed to move the sign box to 2 more. So within the next.
So I think, what do you think, John? We're going all the way down to Bethel Church.
And that's easy.
It's more or less gonna be the same.
It's not residential back there, right?
No, right here on the Great Park. Just the Great Park. This is also Great Park.
That's where your Irish.
That's
goes.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it safer.
And then it's the same thing on this side.
I don't think it's good like that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, okay.
So you're doing village center and then a section of suburban commercial in between.
Well, it's just the grocery store.
There's a gas station.
He
We actually have one here.
trying to extend Old Town, they just like out the car wash. But
We don't-
even
we don't
if
want-
he did it, that's hard because there's so.
We don't
many-
want grocery, we don't want we don't want the opportunity for another.
We don't want to
gas
have
station
to
and
have
grocery
somebody
store.
squeeze in a grocery store in the middle of commercial, because we've allowed it here. So we had to
Once we
change
get
up
to
the
the
zoning
next
types,
level.
therefore,
Business that people.
even the
need to,
littles are
You don't like that?
Well,
Challenge to
So he understands that.
well, we would have to distinguish based on building size, not based on the fact that it's a grocery store.
They do that.
because there can be small
Because-
little,
Grocery store.
Arcade centers would change.
not all of
Right.
them. We used to have that one that was over here, the old Carucci's or whatever, the old Italian
I
grocery
quote
store.
it, stay
Little ones are,
residential.
those are fine,
Yeah,
those
those
are
are great.
the niche
That
ones.
was Mark.
yeah.
We'll call those R.
That's fine.
Because the grocery store would fall under the zoning classification of commercial.
I don't want to steal hard thunder.
Commercial is divided up based on,
Somebody offered him.
Okay,
Building
all right.
size.
So we could end up with a problem then, because if we kept these, because then you also have
He said, I never
hotels.
saw how to leave Cornelius, but he said, I was.
If we kept the way.
We would have to carve
We
out
could
some
change
of those
My property.
items.
So he owns a lakefront lot up in Moore.
this is also your vision, not necessarily what's,
Oh, that's
He's
correct.
gonna announce
what's
it.
there today.
Yeah, and not what we'll.
So he's only gonna be here for.
We'll
Not
see,
necessarily
because
what
our
you
red
want.
might end up different. Zillow than this red.
Well, and they have a better idea.
All right. Good job,
I
guys.
got 5 minutes.
All right, y'all.
My table's ready.
You did it. Congratulations again. Another section. knocked out.
We relocated Dennis's out here to the O in Norman. It's gonna be floating, so you.
They made it simple. They said they wanted big box stores over the whole region. All right, y'all want to go first this time?
Yeah.
All right, Ava, or Dennis, or Susan?
We're basically just carrying the same thought through the corridor, same look and feel. We want to make sure it's walkable, bikeable. You know, that may be an aside parking lot item, but we've got to improve the ability, you know, when we do the widening of Catawba, make sure that we keep bikers in mind. So that corridor we just talked about before, we want the same concept, that there's a destination, there's a reason we're going to go to that destination. They knock down the Bank of America building, we want to make sure there's something that replaces it that you want to walk to.
I like that.
That's what most of what we said too, is really, it wasn't necessarily what the use was, it was the thing that was there, about tightening up the designations, right, not just.
Yeah, that'll be a big piece to it.
Same thing, two-story,
Yeah.
you'll still have that
Yeah.
look.
The only thing we did do that was a little different was, what did we do? We changed the zoning on the grocery stores so that you couldn't build grocery stores through here. And there's a green space right there that we said, what was that? Rural preservation?
Yeah, we said it as keeping it rural. Right now, it's where townhomes are planned right along the greenway.
BB belts.
Oh, we can build.
What neighborhood is it? Is it Harborsburg?
It's not built yet. It's,
Oh,
It's
It's
right
between
behind the
Magnolia
Fifth Third
Estates.
Bank, right
Oh,
along
yeah.
the road where Publix is.
Yep.
Yep.
You come off that trail, there's, you know, that creek runs right along it, and then on the other side, they're supposed to build, I don't even know how many townhomes, but,
It's right behind the Ugly Boat place.
correct, you know. Although we would need to go through and clean it up, because there's a couple mattresses out there and things.
That's where I sleep.
they are hiring though, by the way.
The mattress in the
No,
woods.
the great place. They will train.
Yeah, I think
How
that's
did you
signs
know?
Man, you guys cranked it out today. You guys cranked it out. Good job. Everyone give yourself a round of applause. Come on. You guys did it. Good job. Got the first one down. That's
the hardest one, guys, that's the hardest one. I mean, just get the first one done in a very challenging area. Thank you. Any comments about how this process felt today versus last time? I know we're gonna add the 2 boards next time, right?
This was
Take
great,
notes.
thank you, this was great.
So just, for next time, we'll finish up with that 3rd area, and we need to be prepared to have the next quadrant available at the next meeting as well.
Will
you send that out ahead of time?
Yes, I will. And
I do a little bit of homework and looking at what's there and carve out.
Try to
where I
get that
think
out
could-
early to you.
Awesome.
Next quadrant, you wanna do, which one you wanna do next?
Why don't we just keep, I think we're on a little bit of a roll coming down Catawba, why don't we just keep going down Catawba for now?
Okay, so we're gonna do the,
Towards the interstate on Catawba.
We're gonna expect Ava to take the lead on this next.
all right, so that will be the.
Oh, and
the
we're gonna,
north-
well, we have to finish this quadrant, right?
Yes.
And then the whole next quadrant that you're talking about, let's see. I don't know, what do you guys wanna do? We've got, do you wanna do the other side of the interstate, or do you wanna
Finish
go,
off that.
do you wanna come down here and grab this quadrant down here?
The bottom left.
Yep, the bottom left down here? Okay, finish this out down here?
Southwest.
Southwest quadrant,
Okay.
okay?
We'll be prepared for that.
So we do have to finish this gray up here too next time though.
And that'll be quick, there's not much to do,
Yep,
it's not a-
so we'll finish that out.
Please identify if there's any watershed areas that we can't touch.
We'll do that.
Anything unique, like watersheds, we'll do, that was good advice, we'll do that again.
Maybe just outline the park or the phase 3 Robbins, because that's almost
We'll
what all that
we'll
is.
do that, just like we did on this one, we'll outline existing parks, greenways, anything like that, we'll do that for that quadrant as well.
Awesome. Awesome, guys, great job, seriously,
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Thanks for all your work,
Yeah.
staff.
Thank you.
Guys, help us out.
Good job, good job.